Let's jump right in. We're starting on time. This
Cool.
isn't punk rock time, right? Um, but tell me about the live events you do with Mad Records. Yeah, like I've saw that you do like a couple songwriting ones too, right? Like that seems to be the bulk of it, right?
Yeah. So for anybody that's not familiar with Mad Records, basically what we are is we call ourselves an education funded record label. So basically what that means is we use online education programs for artists to fund record deals for emerging artists. So um, basically what we do is we allow students to sit in on all of our day-to-day label functions. So they sit in on our recording sessions, they sit in on our songwriting sessions, like you said. They sit in on the label meetings, so they learn how we promote and develop artists. And the money that we make from those education programs is what we use to then sign artists to 0% deals, so we don't own any of their music or anything like that. So that's the gist behind Mad Records. So yeah, we do a lot of live events where we let people basically just sit in on the day to day of what we're doing at the label. So on Mondays we record new music in the studio, and they get to watch that whole process play out. On Tuesdays we do live songwriting sessions. Then we've got label meetings and the whole thing. So it's pretty cool.
That's rad. So it's not just spreadsheets.
No, gosh, no, no, that was my old life. No, not
Right.
anymore.
Well, that's a bunch of the music world too, of
Yeah.
spreadsheets, but thankfully at a minimum. That's rad. How do the songwriting things work? Is it one like it looked like it was one person goes in and like they're writing some music and they get feedback, or how does that work?
So the artists that we have signed to the label, every single week she'll bring in a new songwriter from out here in Nashville. And then they'll generate three different prompts, and then they'll write to those prompts in real time. And the whole thinking behind that is basically it's one thing to learn the craft of songwriting, but you want to
Mhm.
watch it actually play out in real time and see how it actually comes to life and what do professionals out here actually do in Nashville to write a song. So every single week they get to shadow and sit in and watch how that actually happens in real time. And we had no clue if it was going to work or not, because we were like, we didn't know if the camera being in the room during that process was going to really affect things, but it turned out they're so entertaining. Like watching them reach for this thing and pull it out of the ether and turn it into a song is really pretty cool to watch. So they've been great.
That's great. So you're doing it all in the room, and people are just able to like you stream it then live, and people can watch from wherever they are.
Yep, exactly. The thinking behind it was bringing basically the Nashville community to the global audience, because I can go shadow a songwriting session here any day that I want. But for people who are in the middle of nowhere or in towns that don't have a big music hub, they never really get that experience. So we kind of wanted to bring that community to the online environment.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's been
Cool.
fun. Yeah, it's a lot of testing stuff, but it's been cool.
Well, I mean, testing and as we're going to get into it, of course, but like testing is how, because the basis of this talk is, how to like survive and make it in this modern music creative world using the internet tools that we have available to us. But there's no ABC to it. There's a lot of testing.
Yeah,
There,
I've called it the Roomba method, which is like you go until you bump into something, and then you turn and you adjust course. And if you do it fast enough, you learn the layout of the land pretty quickly. You know.
yeah, I mean, there's best practices and stuff, of course, but like everything is unique for everybody. Like stuff that works for some people just falls flat for others. And like,
Yeah, and you can sit and you can overanalyze. I mean, this is what I tell like our students and our members all the time is like you sit and you analyze and you analyze and you analyze, and then you end up doing it and it's not right anyway. So it's better to kind of go with your gut, see
Mhm.
what happens, take in some data, and iterate and move quickly than it is to try and nail it the very first time that you do it, you know?
Yeah, and to your point about the data, like, because I see some people that are just like, wow, this one thing did 3% worse, and it's like, really,
Yeah.
3%? Like, relax. Like you're like, whether it's 100 people or 10,000, like, I mean, yeah, three people can add up, but 3% can add up. But like, come on, like, because there's so many factors at play, time of day, the day that you send something out or whatever. There's just so much at stake here.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a lot too, which is kind of like that's why we talk about building an email list or whatever. When you own the data for
Mm,
whoever it is that you're trying to talk to, you don't have to nail it perfectly every time because you can re-engage those people. You
yep.
have access, the ability to get in front of them more than one time. So, yeah, that I'm sure we'll dig into that quite a bit too. But that's a big reason why I've been so bullish on email or SMS lists or anything where you actually own the data, which is why we're on Substack probably.
Yeah, yeah. What drew us there? Yeah, I want to build an email list. That was
Right.
my thing in 2021 when I got on Substack. Um, can you talk a bit about, because I don't think enough people. I don't know if it really resonates so much, but like that whole data thing, like technically what called first party data, right? Like data I have. If I have an email list, that's my first party data. Whereas like if you have a Shopify site and you sell stuff, that's your first party data. Third party data is just like stuff out there on the social media platforms and stuff that you don't really have, right? Like you have no control over that stuff.
Yeah. So the best way that I describe it to people, artists, at least in the music space, is uh, let's say I have a new song out and I'm trying to get people to go stream it. And let's say I do a really good job of it. Let's say I absolutely crush it. My
Hmm.
marketing is on point, everything's working. And I send 1 million people to Spotify and 1 million people stream that song, right? Well, Spotify doesn't share who those 1 million
That's it.
people are, right? They
Right.
don't share. You got 1 million people to listen to it, but we have no idea who they are. And so now, when I release my second song, if I want to get in front of those 1 million people again, I have to either hope that Spotify is going to show it to them again,
Hmm.
or I have to basically pay Spotify ads or Instagram ads, or just try and do it all over again and get 1 million new people. Um, and so, what ends up happening, at least in the music space, what I see all the time is people spend all of their effort to send people to Spotify. And even when it works, they have no way of re-engaging those people and they just float away into the abyss. And understanding that is really key to it. Kind of shines a light on what a lot of people are missing about the streaming platforms right now, or
Right.
anything.
Right. Yeah, those numbers are awesome when we see them. The million streams, the X amount of monthly listeners, the 800,000 followers on Twitter, but you can't reach them like consistently. They're just out of like they're out of reach.
Well, and I think that became, I'm hoping that became really apparent with the TikTok shutdown, even though it
Mm,
only lasted 2 seconds. I think
yeah.
for people to realize that unless I actually own the data, this can all be taken away from me at the drop of a hat. My entire business can evaporate overnight. That
Yeah.
should be a massive wake up call for people to say, hey, I'm going to move to platforms like Substack, where, okay, if I'm going to build an audience, at least I own the data and I can re-engage those people. But TikTok should be a wake up call, but I don't know if it was.
I know, I've seen it over the years, and that was one of the big reasons I started writing about social media escape club, get an email list. Over the years, was just seeing all these artists lose access to their Instagram accounts or
Right.
their Facebook account got hacked or something like that, and they lost control and they can't, and then they go over to Twitter and be like, "Hey, by the way, we got hacked, so don't." It's just such a convoluted way to try to stay in touch with your fans. Like there's no like I guess point of truth. There's no like years ago when Avenged Sevenfold had their socials hijacked and they announced that they were canceling festival dates. They had to be like, no, like they had to update their website of like no because their website wasn't hacked, so they were like, here's this point of truth, we were hacked, we're not canceling those tour dates. And like so many artists, so many creative people don't have that home base, don't have that backup in case anything like that happens.
Well, and I think that's an important distinction that I try and make with people because it's not like I'm a big like email marketing fanatic. It's not like I'm like, if anything, email marketing is actually kind of archaic and ugly
Absolutely.
and super unsexy. The difference, the reason why I'm a fan of email marketing is because it's the only place that you do you can directly reach your audience without intermediation of some sort of platform. And even that is starting to change a little bit with Gmail and
Oh, Gmail.
auto sorting into different tabs and stuff. But it's the one place where if you want to reach someone, you can get in front of them. And I think you had a brilliant point about this yesterday on one of your Substack notes, which is like maybe for everybody watching, put a one in the chat if you came from an email, if you registered for this event from an email, and then put a two in the chat if you came from social media. And I guarantee you, like you said yesterday, how many registrants came from email compared to
So
uh,
many.
social media.
Yeah, you were the you were the smart one in this and put it in your email newsletter about this event. I forgot to put it in my Monday newsletter, and being the smart guy I am, and yeah, and I looked it up. I had to look it up. Substack has followers, which are people that follow you on Substack Notes, and I have like 10,000 of them. And I got like, we got 4 signups from like a couple posts, and you even reshared them to your audience, and we
Yep.
got like 4 signups from that. You emailed it, and like the bulk of the people are putting ones in here. So it was like over 80 signups, and I'm absolutely like the only reason like we're not adding that to any email list or anything like that, but like we now have that first party data. Like we have 80 some emails of people that were interested in this, and like I'd like to send them the replay of this probably later, like, and that's it. There you go. Fine, there you go. But like, yeah, you couldn't do that with social media.
No,
You couldn't follow up with everybody afterwards like that.
well, and that's the other thing for artists is that I know artists who have, a million followers that can't fill 100 cap venue or something like that, right? Just because you've got
Yep.
the numbers doesn't mean that you can actually convert people through a funnel and get them to actually do something that you want to do. So, like, that's been the thing that we've been focusing on with Mad Records is teaching artists how to actually forget about the numbers, forget about the vanity metrics. How do you actually move someone from a cold audience where they have no idea who you are to actually doing something that you want them to do, like streaming your song or buying your merch or buying a ticket to the show? And that's very different from just going viral, or getting big vanity metrics. It's a whole different process.
Yeah, but you say, how do you get someone to click something? Like, how do you get someone out of their house to come to a venue? Like, get in the car. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, and it's like a dogfight in the digital marketing space where it's like I mean, that's why everything is so clickbaity nowadays because it's like everybody is desperate to get attention because it's so incredibly difficult. If anything, I think things are actually swinging back a little bit more towards the analog environment where it's like if I get a piece of physical mail now on my doorknob, I'm at least reading it now,
Yeah.
whereas emails I might not. So it's kind of funny that it's like it always ebbs and flows, and I feel like it's swinging back a little bit more towards digital marketing. It's just too much, and now you're competing against bots, and you're competing against it's impossible.
I always think of it too on social media is like you're not just competing against some brands, but like those brands have teams of people.
Right.
Like some of the bigger brands out there can have 5, 6, 10, 12 people on a team that are making graphics, that are making video, that are optimizing, that are responding to comments. Like that's what like it's social media in itself can be a full-time job. And if you're just tweeting like 4 times a week, like good luck.
Yeah, and I think that's why I hate the word authenticity as like a buzzword, but I mean I think that's why it works is because what the 15-person marketing team doesn't have is the ability to just be authentic and be a real person, right?
For sure.
Um,
Yeah, which is the idea of, and my buddy Bill and I talked about this years ago. Was he's a Mets fan? Maybe I told you this when we talked originally, but he's a Mets fan. And years ago, when we were on Twitter, when we got started on Twitter, like we didn't follow. He didn't follow the Mets Twitter account. He followed the Mets beat writers
yeah,
because they had all the stories. And like it's kind of the same for a lot of band accounts. Eh, usually, but that bass player from that band, he's funny as shit. Or the
right.
drummer, like I love the stuff he talks about. Like a perfect example of that is Craig Reynolds. from Stray from the Path, like that dude doing streams and stuff like that, like started from Twitter and his clothing brand and stuff like that. Like that's why I like Stray from the Path, because I found and like discovered that person and like vibed with that. I was like, I'm into this.
Yeah,
So,
and then that's how you build trust with people, and that's the thing that is so hard to teach, which is like a lot of times I think when people think of marketing themselves, they think of, okay, how do I put up this veil between who I am and who the audience is seeing, and if I'm gonna put my camera and get myself perfectly right, which I did do before
my
this.
background, yeah, background's
Yeah,
good. Yeah,
which
yeah, we got some all right background here. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, we do it.
it's a vibe, but like people want the opposite. You know what I mean?
Mm.
If this Substack live went on and I was, on the toilet in the bathroom, it would probably be more likable. You know what I mean? People would be maybe
It'd be
not that,
something.
maybe not, but like people want real real stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, they do, and to an effect, this is real because it's live. Shit can get
Right.
fucked up. My cat could knock over my phone right now, or
Damn.
something. Like one of us could say something really dumb.
Right.
Like the live aspect of it is I it one, it's so easy to post on social media to try to get the word out and stuff. But two, it's also so safe. It's really hard to like mess that up. You know what I mean? Like
Well,
and as everyone's doing, everyone's putting up this safe, easy to digest material.
that's why I think it's so dangerous to build your brand as anything but who you actually are,
Oh,
because
big time.
then when you're in a situation like this where I'm just shooting stuff off the dome, it's like you're screwed. I mean, if you've been faking it, you're screwed.
Mhm. Yep.
So we had someone ask about that in our community today about like developing a brand identity, and I basically said to them, I was like, I think your brand identity is just the more you understand yourself, the better your brand identity becomes, because you just get better at communicating who you really are. But if you're faking it, you're screwed
If you're faking it and you blow up, now you have to fake it all the time.
forever.
How hard is it? How much energy does that take? Um,
Well, it's funny that you say that because I always talk about that with some of the artists in our community where I'm like, the reason why all of the big artists from the 70s had raging drug issues was because they had to they had to constantly kind of be somebody that they really weren't. And people miss
yeah.
those days as like the glory days, but we live in an era now where you can be an artist and you can also be yourself. And yeah,
Mhm.
maybe it's not as sexy as it used to be, and you have to show people, who you really are, but at the end of the day, you get to be who you actually are and have success with it anyways.
And you could, I mean, there's also the balance too of like of holding part of. You don't have to give everything all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could still like there's a balance to it. You don't have we don't have to do this on the toilet or anything like that. Uh, uh, so yeah, there's some give and take there.
Yeah, I think you meet people where they're at, where it's like, if I got on here and you were like, "Hey, how's it going?" and I was like, "Well, it's actually been a tough day." It's like, okay, like you don't have to be that often. Like, pull it together
Right.
a little bit.
Right. Yeah. Seth Godin says something about that, like authenticity. Like you don't want to hear your doctor being authentic like that.
Yeah,
Like, I
right,
just need my doctor to be my doctor. You know what I mean? Like
right.
so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
We made it a half hour into this. I guess we're going an hour, right? Sure, right? I
We
gotta
can go
bug off for now.
however long you
Yeah.
want.
We should probably hop into something talking about whether to monetize or the tools that we can use to like better get our stuff out in front of people and retain people. Um, what are some of the top level ideas or methods that you discuss with your clients here and there?
Yeah. So basically, uh, the number one thing that I see as an issue with like the artist community is that their approach to getting someone to do something, whether it's stream a song, buy a painting, whatever it is, book their services, whatever it is to just walk up to people and say, I've got a new song out on Spotify, right?
Hmm.
And what I try to do is explain to people that if you look at the digital environment and you compare it to what it would be like if I did that to someone in the real world. How would
Hmm.
they react to it? So if I'm walking down the street and I see someone that I've never met before and I walk up to them and I say, I've got a new song out on Spotify, the first thing that they're going to do, if they don't pepper spray me, is say, who are you? Right? Like, what do you, why are you talking to me? Right? So for some reason in the digital environment, people don't understand that, because you think you can just sell to people right away,
Hmm.
but you need to build awareness with them, a moment of awareness, and then you need to pull them into your funnel, right, where you can own the data and continue to re-engage them, build trust with them at that point, just like we're doing now, right? We're not selling anything. We're getting
Not
on here
yet.
because
Not
we're
yet. The
building.
hook's coming. Hook's
Yeah,
coming.
just wait. Um, but I mean, like, you build trust, you build awareness, you provide value. That's what you do with your newsletter. And then eventually down the road, once people trust you and they're aware of you, then they're ready to maybe do something like buy merch or subscribe as a paid subscriber. So the question is how do you pull people through that funnel? Um, and that's the thing that we kind of focus on, which is like, what's the value on the other side of this work to pull people through those steps? So I have like an example of that, but I don't know if you want to chunk down further on that.
Well, the idea of that, because so much of this is advertised or bought and sold as like some commodity. Like, hey, I have music. Check out my music, and it's like
Yeah.
people get band names tattooed on themselves, and lyrics, and you know they cry to albums and music. So yeah, just I think even in just how we talk about it and how we try to sell what we're doing is it needs more reverence, I think.
Well, so the perfect example of this is the pre-save campaign for music. I talk about this a
Mm,
lot, where there's 9 hoops for the person to jump through, and there's very little value in what they actually get from it. Basically zero value. A pre-save doesn't do anything for me. So it's like the worst form of opt-in ever, where it's like a lot of work for very little value. And that's why so many people's pre-save campaigns completely flop, because it's like the moment I see that I have to sign into Spotify to pre-save your song, I'm sorry, I love you, but like it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, people are off and they're scrolling still. So the challenge is to find something to put on the other side of that work that is enticing enough for people to do something. Like, for example, register for this webinar, we collect your email, but now you get an hour of value, hopefully, through our interview. So um, when you present artists with that question, though, that a lot of times they say, well, I don't have anything, I just have my art or whatever. But to me, if you get creative, you can find a million different things to pull people through that funnel. And I saw someone mention funnels in the chat, and it's not an intimidating thing if you understand what the process is and what you're doing. So yeah, maybe we can dig into that.
yeah, it brings up another marketing term of lead magnet,
Mm-hmm.
which is such a slimy word, but really like, and I made a meme one time where it was the dude from Breaking Bad,
Mm-hmm.
the Walter guy, I think. I'm not a huge TV guy, but there's that scene where he goes like, "I am the danger,"
Mm-hmm.
and I made it say, I am the lead magnet."
Mm-hmm.
That was my meme. It didn't go viral.
It's
It didn't.
crafty. I would have
It,
liked it.
it's pretty niche.
Yeah.
Pretty niche. But I am the lead magnet, and the artist is the lead magnet. Like the thing I do or the proximity that you get to me is like that's the lead magnet. Whether it's right, like a ticket pre-sale, or even to know about some exclusive email list only clothing drop or something like that, or exclusive access to know where this one event is or something like that. Like, I mean, that's stuff. That's lead magnet stuff.
Yeah, so I talk about this all the time, where it's like every single artist, when they're on stage or something like that at a show, they'll say, "Be sure to follow me on socials. I at
Mm,
this handle." Right? Again, you're asking me to pull out my phone in the middle of the show, do it, and maybe one or two people do it, right? But if you do one small tweak to that and you say, hey, stop by the merch stand and get some free merch after the show. And in exchange for your email, now I'll give you a free band sticker. You get free merch in exchange for your email. Well, now there's something on the other side of giving you my email that's actually interesting to me, aside from just doing it as a favor, right? And
Yeah.
now maybe instead of one person following you on socials, you get 10 emails. And then when that person gets home from their show at night, they have an email in their inbox with your set list and all of the Spotify links to the songs that you played, right? And
Yeah.
now, okay, now you've turned those 10 people into they've already had 3 touch points with you, right? And you're starting to create some real fans. So, um, again, it's like you have to approach these problems creatively. I think a lot of people just say, well, I'm not a business person, and they kick it out of their brains entirely. But that's the fun part, like, is trying to figure out, okay, if no one followed me when I asked them to, instead of just assuming that that means I'm a terrible artist or whatever, figure out, like, okay, how can I incentivize them? What can I do? How can I get creative? I can make gift baskets. I can, whatever, you know?
Well, you be the Roomba. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
you one thing doesn't work, bounce into another wall and try something else. I mean, it's the way with making music or making art or making photos. Like you figure out what works until like something resonates. I mean, got to resonate with you first, but if other people come along with the ride, that's the gold right there.
Well, if you ask my students in our program, week 3 of our program is called Fail Week, and the goal of Fail
Mm.
Week is to just go out and make as many mistakes as possible, so we can
Ooh.
start figuring out what's working and what's not working. Um, the problem is if you go out and you fail and then you shut down, then you're screwed. But if you go out and you fail and you realize, hey, no one followed me or opted into my funnel, um, now I'm gonna just take that data and figure out how I can improve over the course of 3 months, you can have a really killer funnel either here on
Hmm.
Substack or email or SMS. Like it
Hmm.
really isn't as difficult as it sounds, you know?
It's just getting well, and to your with what you're doing with your community and what other communities are doing. I think dedicate your life to music. What they're doing is doing this stuff together and like being okay and like if we fail with each other, like it's almost better. Like social media has isolated us so much that we think we all have to do it all by ourselves, and like it's so much better when you're doing this stuff with other people. I think the answer to so much of all this stuff is just like start talking to other people about this stuff.
Yeah. We, I think, are still living in the post COVID era of
Mm.
people, when they interact with other people, they put on a mask for a while. And then when they get home, they're like, oh, and that's why everybody wants to go home because they can be themselves or whatever. The trick is being like that with other people and sharing your insecurities and figuring out that everybody else kind of feels the same way.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what we're kind of trying to do with our artist community is like you realize everybody kind of has the same problems, the same worries, the same insecurities. And so it's not that big of a deal then. Like you're not as much of an outsider as you think you are. And I think just realizing that makes it a lot easier to go out and test things and try and fail and fall on your face because you're like, oh, well, this person's going through the same thing, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I take a, not a huge comedy person, but I've always enjoyed how established comedy people, comedians, talk about the writing and how
Right.
they like write and write and write and like and they try it. They go out on a Tuesday night and like just getting in front of people and doing this stuff. And it's not just like playing a set or playing a song at an open mic, but it's also almost to what you just spoke of, talking to people
Hmm.
like like getting used to and getting better at talking to people. Like I've been doing a handful of these like Zoom kind of things for the last year and a half, like being more intentional with that. The version of this a year and a half ago wasn't as good as this prime hosting expertise right here, but like it just came from like I'm just gonna keep freaking doing this and
Well,
learning.
Yeah, and that's so a lot of artists I work with, they are always like, well, I don't want to put anything out that isn't perfect. And
Mm,
my argument to them is always like, most of the people who are going to know you don't aren't following you yet anyways, right? Like,
mm,
for example, all of the mistakes I made with my Substack and growing it, most of the people here probably didn't see any of it because
mm-mm.
they weren't around then because it was a smaller
Yeah,
Substack, right? So most of the people, your audience, doesn't even know you exist yet. So this is the time to make the mistakes and to test things. If you want to find your audience, then you need to be willing to make those mistakes. And chances are most of them aren't going to see it anyways because you're in
right.
that stages. So that's the perfect time.
Yeah, yeah. Make your mistakes when you have 10 followers or 100 subscribers, because it's a lot less, or there's 12 people on a Tuesday night in front of you.
Right.
Instead of make your dumb mistakes then. Like learn how to change a string mid set,
Yeah.
like in front of 10 people instead of 100 people. Because you're gonna have to learn it someday.
Yeah, exactly. And then by the time that time comes around, you're used to things going wrong. You know what I mean?
Right. And look at the musicians that you and I've seen probably over the years, like the established musician that does break a string, or the mic doesn't work, or they drop their stick, the drummer drop, like there's not, like there's no fear. There's no like just it's so great seeing, like, because they've done it. They've dropped the drumstick, 100 times.
Right.
It's just getting those reps in.
Well, yeah, and I think if you take that approach to marketing, you also find out that your marketing will probably be a lot more effective because when you're not afraid of making mistakes, like, what's the best performing email for pretty much every major brand?
The one where they made a mistake and they have to send one afterwards with a new
The
link or
oops,
something. Yeah,
the
the
oops
oops.
email.
Yeah, yeah.
The oops email is the best performing email. I know people who do the oops email on purpose because of how well, which is
So,
such a marketer thing.
sure.
But when you show people that you are a human being, um, they resonate with it, right?
Hmm.
And the problem is that everybody, when they think to go out and market or build an email list or whatever it is, they think they have to sanitize everything that makes them interesting.
Hmm.
When in reality, it's like, no, just put that out there. That's what they want to resonate with.
Yeah. Stephanie Graham has a great question here. What are some examples of mistakes y'all have made? I don't know if you want to go first. I got a
Uh,
couple.
oh, yeah. Well, in the early days, it's kind of hard to tell what mistakes you're making because it's just like no one cares. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I put something out and I get 2 views on it and no likes. Did I make any mistakes? I don't really know. It's sort of more about figuring out when you're resonating with people and what's working and what's not. For me personally, back when I was an artist, the thing that I made the mistake of was um, trying to make myself appear bigger than I was, right? So
Mm,
I always talk about this one post that I remember I did. It was after my first show that I ever played, and I posted an Instagram post, and it was like, "Last night was a dream," right? It's like me on stage, right? It was like 5 people, and they were my family. You know what I mean? Was it a dream? It was cool. It was awesome for me. But I think if I came out and I basically said, "Last night, I performed for 10 of my closest family members, and it may not be much, but it's the start of a long journey that I've been working on for a long time," that would have resonated with people a lot more. So I think it's embarrassing sometimes to be like, hey, things aren't going great right now. But if you can tell a story about, here's where I'm in the beginning stages and here's where I'm going, people really resonate with that. So for me, the big mistake with my artist career was being afraid to admit that I was at the beginning of my artist career. And
mm,
if I just did that, I think I would have found my audience way quicker.
yeah. 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 It's that authentic, like, truth, because it's a story that can resonate with people. Like, people love the hero's journey. The
Hmm.
person start, like, that's the whole thing of stories. I guess mistakes I've made. Oh boy. I mean, one that not creative, but I build for clients. I do email lists and marketing for clients and record labels and other pharmaceutical tech companies and whatever. And one time we were launching a newsletter for a particular client, and the from name, hey, this is from, it's the email, and from, so if it's a company, so we're Mad Records, it would say Mad Records. Well,
Yeah.
I spelled the company name wrong.
Mm.
Oops.
Yeah.
Um, that was not in front of a small group of people. Everyone saw that. So yeah. Thankfully though, like I've done leading up to that point, I've done a lot of great work for that client. Oopsie. And since then, things have been fine. But that's not really a mistake that like that I was trying to learn anything with. If anything, it was slow down, slow the fuck down, and check your
Yeah.
work and make sure you have that link right, so you don't have to send another email that says oops, wrong link. Because people are catching on to that, um
Yeah.
slow
Email.
down. And what's that?
Email is terrifying. Hovering over
Oh, terrifying.
the send button,
Yep.
because there is no undo. It is terrifying. We'll say that.
Yeah, then when it goes out, I mean, when email campaigns go out to 30,000 people, yeah, that the first link in that email better be right. Because if it's not, it has such an opportunity to drive, 1,000 people to the wrong link, and that
Right.
sucks. It's a lost opportunity.
But that's your education cost. Like I talk about this all the time, where it's
Yeah,
like I used to be a trader, and the trades that you lose money on.
a traitor to this country,
Yeah, I was Benedict Arnold.
treasonous.
I know, a corporate bond trader, way
Oh,
worse,
okay.
way worse.
All right, all
Um,
right. We
and
forgive you.
the trades that you lost money on, you had to chalk it up as your education cost. And you go, okay, I investing in the fact that I'm not going to make this mistake again. And if you take
Hmm.
that, if you are really hard on yourself for making that mistake, that's when the pressure is going to kick in, and then you're going to make that mistake 10 more times. If
Hmm.
you look at it and you go, okay, I made this mistake, now I'm aware of it, and I add it to my workflow to make sure I check the sender name every time I'm
Yep.
sending an email out, then okay, that was my educational cost for that, and I'll move on.
It also it can include other people. Like from that, I was able to like, oh wait, maybe I should have other people look at this before I send it out. Like every
Right.
part of it. And that was an early email marketing mistake on my part. But yeah, the other people involved. I mean, when there's other people involved, not just for like, is this good, or does this look right, or does this read right, but just quality control, just for the links alone, like that stuff's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's again, it's the Roomba effect. It's like you could just go out, and to everybody here too, like that's watching, who hasn't sent your first email. Only way to find out what it's like is to send it out and
Yeah.
see what are my open rates like. Did I link the wrong link? Did I send it to the wrong group?
Hmm.
You're gonna make mistakes. The sooner you get them out of the way, if you view it as I have to make 10 mistakes to get to my first success, then you can just go out and make it happen.
And I'll use that as an example of to not just send out an email twice a year,
Yeah.
because you don't learn much from that. And like your audience like doesn't, like they don't like they might forget about you after 6 months. Wait, who is this person? Like, I'm not saying you got to send every week, but like the more often you send, once a month at least, like the more you learn from that.
Well, so here's how it'll work: is most people who are on this session right now, and if they didn't come from my email list, then let's say this is their first impression of me, right? This is the
Hmm.
first time they're on me.
Yeah.
Maybe they like it, maybe they don't like it, maybe they think my voice is annoying. Regardless,
Stinks.
one
Ooh.
one one impression, right? Um,
Sure. Yeah.
Later on, maybe the Substack algorithm shows them one of my notes. So okay,
Yep.
oh, that's that guy I saw on the thing. Oh, cool, whatever. The third time, maybe they see one that they like, and then they follow me on notes, right? Then the fourth time, they go, oh, he just posted a new article. I'm curious about that. Maybe I'll subscribe to him on Substack. Now I've got the email. Now they're
Hmm.
on my email list. I send out an email. They're like, "Oh, that's that guy again." Blah blah blah. And after
There he
about
is.
six to eight impressions, then you have the trust and the awareness with people to maybe, if we're launching a new community or whatever the case is, maybe now, and probably not, but maybe now you're at the point where you're actually willing to make a purchase. So it's just about getting in front of people, and every time you get in front of them, they're left with more value than they had before.
I mean, Coca-Cola still advertises. They don't
Right.
need to. They're in every store. Like we're all just 10 feet away from a Coca-Cola product. But like they're still buying ads on TV and everything like that. Like
Well,
so.
and it's because when you're standing there in the aisle and you're indifferent between Pepsi and Coke, you're going to
Mhm.
go with the last thing that was in your head.
Yep. Yeah. We should get to this question from Morpho. Do you have a
Oh, yeah.
systematic approach for organizing email lists? Ooh.
I know Morpho. I love Morpho. I
Bad
won't.
character? Should we ban him?
Oh,
I'm kidding.
that criminal.
All right. Report. Report. Um, you're right. You're right, Stephanie. Can't stop, won't stop. Cocoa sale. Yeah. Systematic approach for organizing email lists. The one thing I would say is an kind of an unorganized list is better than no email list. Like if you just set up something right now to like capture emails and put them in MailChimp or whatever you're gonna do, like great start. Like don't wait till you have the perfect setup or perfect system
Yeah.
because you'll never do it. So just go. And I would say too, and this is getting a little more in the weeds, but like, because I get this a lot from clients and stuff. Like, well, should I use Mailchimp? Should I use Substack? Should I use Flowdesk? Should I just sign up for all of them? See
Yeah.
which ones feel right for you. Because I've had clients that were like, I tried Substack and I hated it. Well, guess what? You probably will hate it doing it. So don't do that. Use another one. Um, but I guess from there, like, because I know people that use myself included, like use Substack mostly to capture, to capture, to capture. And then when people like actually purchase from me or uh, they join my escape pod, my weekly calls that I do and stuff like some of those people go into that list. So when I have something new and exciting, they end up over in Kit, which used to be called Convert Kit. So that's fine. So they sit over there. So like when I have something that's more like um I hate this as a marketing term, warm. Ugh, gross. But like it's people that are like, I
Yeah.
know who that person is. So when they get an email from me, they're not like, who the heck is this? And so when I say like, hey, I have a course on how to make $10,000 a day, like they're like, oh, great, I'll buy that. I don't have a course like that, but yeah, I would just say start with something because it's better than nothing.
Yeah. I I'm like hesitant to say anything because I almost don't want to, because people will be like, it has to be perfect. But I agree with you. You pick one and you start there. The only thing that I'll add to that is like, I do the same thing. So I build my email list on Substack, and then any marketing stuff I do on ConvertKit or Kit.
Yeah,
Um, the and then once you get familiar with it and you understand about those 6 to 8 impressions, that's when you can do the fancy stuff where it's like send an email to only the people who clicked the link on your last email and hit
yeah.
them a special coupon to get them over the edge. Like there's a bunch of little things that you can do once you get really good at it. But I think for most people's purposes now, and the other thing I will add to this is, unless you're making any money, don't spend any money on it. Like
Mm,
you don't need all of the features of an enterprise email software. Like
no.
get the cheap thing until you're making money from it, because I see so many people who, and I used to be one of these people who's like buys way more things than they need. Just gets
Oh yeah.
for free. And then when you need more features, then you upgrade.
Yeah, yeah. Just start. Yeah, start basic. Like, I mean, it's the same as if you're like, oh, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar. Guitar. You don't go out and buy a $10,000 guitar. You buy the cheap little thing, and then learn on that. We all did. So, um, which one should I try other than Substack?
Well, the difference. is that Substack, the thing that makes Substack beautiful is that it has organic reach. So
Yeah.
if I have an email list on ConvertKit, okay, well, I have to drive all of the traffic to sign up to my email list. Basically, I know they have some things maybe a
Yeah.
little bit, not really, but basically, I have to drive people to a sign up form to get them to
Yeah.
go to my ConvertKit. On Substack, if I post notes every day, like a Twitter, or I publish an article, Substack pushes that out to new audiences that then subscribe, and then I capture that email there. So that's why we put so much emphasis
Mhm.
on Substack, is because you actually have organic reach.
The biggest thing too, yeah, totally. Not just the reach, but discoverability.
Yeah,
Because
right,
when you send out a newsletter in MailChimp, great. It's only in your subscribers inbox and it stops there. Sure, people can forward it and stuff like that, but whatever. But like when you post something on Substack, like it has its own, it's a blog post basically. And it's perfectly optimized with subscribe now buttons in it. Like one of the biggest things I tell clients is don't tell, like when you're just starting to launch your email list and all that, don't say click here for updates. Tell people what they're going to get.
right,
And Substack goes another level of that is they show people what they're going to get. You
right.
read the thing. There's no like guesswork. There's no surprise. Like you read a Substack newsletter on the web where everyone can read it, and then people can make up their own mind. Like it's not a chance of like I see this so many creative people do this, of course, but like oh, sign up here to keep in touch, or for our latest things. And you don't know what you're going to get. And I think a lot of us have been like a bad taste in our mouth from that. Of like, what are you going to send me? Is it just going to be like pictures of records and buy now buttons? Because that's
Right,
boring.
right.
So just a big tour poster with words like with dates I can't read, and a click here to buy tickets. Like I don't want to subscribe to that.
Yeah,
So
and I was talking.
Substack makes it easy. Sorry, Substack. Wrap it up. Substack just makes it easy for people to see what they're going to get, and it makes it easy for them to subscribe.
Yes, and not to get too in the weeds, but I think there's one more important point about Substack, is uh, if you okay, we want to capture the data, we want to be able to re-engage these people over and over again, right? So let's think, let's say I have a video, let's say we do this interview on YouTube instead of Substack, right?
Yeah.
The CTA on YouTube, or the call to action on YouTube, is going to be subscribe to our YouTube channel, right? I
Yes.
don't
Oh.
I don't collect any data on who's actually subscribed to my YouTube channel, right?
Yep.
Now I have to do an extra step of converting my subscribers to my email list, which means I have to do something new. Whereas if we do this video here on Substack and I say subscribe to the Mad Records monologue, then there's no step in between me asking you to do that, subscribing, and me collecting and capturing that email address. And that
Yep.
one step alone is is such a massive difference.
Yeah, I tell people that do like this will probably end up on YouTube. Probably we can post this on YouTube and people can discover it because YouTube is a massive
Right,
discovery platform. But in our next newsletter, we're not going to tell people go watch it on YouTube
right,
because what if you subscribe to my YouTube? Chances are I can't reach you ever again.
right,
And when you're on YouTube's platform, which is algorithmically designed to keep you on YouTube and
right.
not care about what I'm trying to do. So yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, is I stress this to clients too. Stop sending your fans where you can't reach them. Stop like
Well,
in newsletters and stuff. Like, don't follow me on Instagram. I can't reach you on Instagram.
exactly. And again, just to stress it, it's like it's not like I'm a big email stan. It's like
Mm,
I talk about, if you were to, let's say I brought my guitar to Times Square in New York City, right? And every day I amassed a massive crowd around me and they loved it. And
mhm.
every single night after was performing and I had a crowd of 100 people around me, I said, all right, cool, take care, see you later, and walked away. The next day, I'm starting from scratch again, right? I have no way, unless those people are walking around Times Square again, they will never see me again. If
Right.
I capture their data somehow,
You have something to hand out. that they can pick up, and
Right. And I
then they
say,
can get engaged with. Yeah.
hey, I'm going to be at Times Square again today. And by the time I get there, I've already got 25 people and 100 new people that come in, right? And then I capture their data and you build it that way. So
Yeah.
it's not like email marketing is that sexy or great. It's that you can reach them directly. That's the point.
Yeah. I've seen a couple people ask, like, is Substack good for bands, musicians? It's good for anyone that wants to reach their fans. And because I mean, as an email list, as again, as a way to capture, it's just super easy for people to come to a thing that you wrote that might have a picture of your latest gig, a a caption under it, just like Instagram, and then an email subscribe button right under it, and they can subscribe. Like, yeah, Substack's
Well,
great for bands. Go ahead.
yeah. And the one thing that I would caution people to think about, because I hear this topic a lot, which is like, what platform should I be on? Um, and you saw it when TikTok got shut down. Everybody was like, I'm going to move to Red Note. And it's like,
Oh yeah.
you need to be building on these platforms before those catalysts happen.
Hmm.
So that way, when those catalysts happen, you've already established your base over here. And by the time TikTok gets shut down, you're not gonna crush it on Red. It's the people who have been there for forever that are
Hmm.
gonna do well. So what's important now to think about is, okay, there isn't a huge music footprint on Substack yet. There's a good
Hmm.
amount, but not a huge amount. If you start building here now, as more people realize, hey, TikTok is, I can't actually monetize it, or they shut down my TikTok at the drop of a hat, or the algorithm changed. Now I'm going to move to Substack. If you're already there and you're already built and you've already put the infrastructure together, that's when you'll learn to benefit from it. So you have to take a little bit longer term approach to it. So yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
great. I think for me, I mean, it's a great place, and the beauty of it is because you're collecting the email. If you ever need to migrate somewhere, you can do that.
Yep. Fred asked, is I mean, this is along what we were just talking about. Is Substack useful for musicians? We need local signups to get people out to gigs. I would say get to gigs and talk to people and have
Yeah.
something to hand them that they can get on your email list. Like, the local thing is the local thing. I mean, it's a big world out there, and not everybody is looking at their phone right now, and or thinking that we have to use a platform because that's where our people are. But our people are like 20 minutes down the road at a venue that has shows, every Friday and Saturday night, or the record shop that puts up flyers still. Like that, it's not going to get you 100 signups, but if it gets you 4 signups that come to your next show, I mean, that for the size of the venue and everything, only holds 20 people. That's great.
Well, yeah, and I've this has been something that I've noticed with social media is now everybody wants to build a global audience.
Hmm.
But it's like, I don't need, if I'm a local band trying to break out of my town, what's more important to me is dominating the space that I'm in rather than building an audience in France overseas, right? It doesn't do anything for me because they're never going to buy tickets, right?
Right.
So a lot of times, again, all of the other people are focused on building this global audience. If you're the one that's actually going door to door and flyering again, it's kind of working right now because everybody else is focused on building a huge audience when they don't really need it.
Yeah. What about Facebook as a way to build an audience? Oh my goodness. I would I would not want to do that in 2025. Like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, should I start a Twitter account in 2025 to like reach people? Like, my goodness.
Well, again, you have to do real numbers. Okay, don't think people understand the amount of people that fall off. Where it's like, if my tweet gets 100,000 views, the amount of people that are going to click that and sign up for my email list are probably two, right?
Super
Maybe two,
small. Yeah,
maybe five people.
maybe.
And we're not being hyperbolic. That's legitimate, the truth. You've got 10,000 subscribers. You said what? 5 people registered for this, not from email, right?
Right? Yeah, yeah.
And it's
10,000
native to the
followers. Yeah.
platform. It's a Substack Live, right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take that route, then you need to be prepared to try and do some massive numbers.
Hmm.
So
Whereas if you just do something locally or small with who you have already in front of you, oh, I only have 10 subscribers. Well, make great shit for 10 subscribers. It's the same as like playing a show on a Tuesday night in front of 10 people. What are you going to do? Wait for more people to show up? No, you put on a great show.
I talk about this, and I remember in our community we had our first happy hour. We just launched the program, so it just started. And my colleague Preston, God bless him, I said to him, I was like, "Hey, how many people do we have in the waiting room?" He's like, "We got 2 people," and I was like, okay, all right, then this is gonna be the best
Yes.
live event for these 2 people that they've ever seen. They came on. We had an amazing. I put my whole ass into making sure that they were as taken care of as possible. And the
Yep.
next time we came around, it was bigger and bigger and bigger, and it keeps growing. So the people who have a defeatist attitude towards it, you're screwing yourself. You have
Yeah.
to, the best people, or they take the mindset of they're on my email list. Now I don't have to worry about them. It's like, no, those are the people that you really want to worry about.
And two, so much of it is I have whatever number of people I have on my email list. Great. Next time I have something to sell, then I'll send them something. And
Exactly.
it's like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, and I've talked to so many bands that do that, and they come to me going, we can't get our open rate over 10%.
Right.
It's like, yeah, because your email sucks. Because
Yeah.
no one wants to open it because all you're doing is selling shit all the time. I mean, we all need to sell shit, but like as Cody Cook Parrott called it, it's creative bothering. Put
Right.
a story, put a photo, this, that, and the other, and like what? Because we're talking in the music space. How many music sites do we see that still talk about crazy tour stories,
Right.
or a band's playlist or something like that, or what's your favorite Halloween songs? You could put that in your own newsletter. You can
Right.
like you could steal. You can creatively steal like all these like hot shit music publication ideas, morph them around into what you do, and give that to your audience.
Yeah. It's the middle of the funnel.
Yeah.
Like I talk about, the middle of the funnel is, I think, where a lot of businesses die because you don't see immediate return. Like if I send out an email that is just value, there's no there's no sale that happens at the bottom of it. It's easy for me to just see that as a sunk cost. But that is the trust. That's how you build the trust. I mean, we both do it with our own Substacks, right?
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah.
we just send out Substacks all the time, and it's just as much value as we can give. And eventually, when we want to send an email where we're selling something, we'll have the audience there who's actually willing to purchase. But if you ignore that middle of the funnel, it's just, yeah, why would they buy it?
Right.
Why would
Right.
they?
Yeah. Build trust. Um, Michael, let's end on that. It's 3 p.m.
Yeah,
I think we provided a lot of value here.
I hope so.
Everyone's
Cool.
saying some nice stuff here in the chat, so I appreciate it.
Cool.
Sorry if we missed your questions. Doing all this on a phone is not the easiest. So,
Yeah,
but
it's. I was shocked when you said it had to be on phone because
yeah,
doesn't seem
Claire, it is
like
recorded. Like it'll probably be up. I know I'm going to put it on my newsletter, Social Media
I will
Escape
as well.
Club. Yeah, yeah. I'll share I forget how it works, but I'll make sure you get the video. Yeah, it'll be on either of ours publications shortly.
Yeah,
So
yeah, cool. Well, thanks so
cool.
much for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Share some good stuff. So, thanks everybody for showing up. Have a great rest of your afternoon, and go subscribe to all
Go
this stuff.
subscribe. Yeah,
All right,
thanks
like and
everybody.
like and follow. Bye,
Yeah,
everybody.
see everyone. Thank you.